What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristin. I am the owner and coach at Nova Strength. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about what I've been doing on my program with my squats. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've noticed that I've been doing a squat every day program. And yes, that means squatting every single day. I do take 2 rest days a week, so I guess it's squatting 5 times a week. But regardless, the past 3 weeks, I have been squatting every day. And not just squatting, but I've been actually working up to a max single for the day, which sounds crazy, I know, but it kind of is, and it has its purposes, and I'm really, really pleased with how it's going so far. So I wanted to make a quick video and kind of talk about the reasonings why, how to do it, and if you should do it too. So the main idea behind this type of program is to elevate your level of fitness or the ability to handle heavier loads by keeping frequency very high, but overall volume very low. So since I'm squatting every single day, the frequency itself is very high, but since it's only working up to 1 heavy single for that day, the overall volume that's accumulated within that week is actually very low. I would say it accumulates to about 10 total working sets a week if I'm including some of the build-up sets. If I was just to include the top heavy single, that's obviously going to be only 5 sets a week. So, and 5 total reps actually. So it's pretty low volume overall. And a couple of reasons why I decided to do this was because my squat's been kind of plateaued for a while. It's just one of those lifts that has never really clicked fully for me. I mean, I'm not horrible at it, but the strength itself has been really slow to build. And so this was a good way to kind of get comfortable in the squat itself. I've also been in a caloric deficit for a few weeks now, and I decided to cut weight. So being in a caloric deficit, it's really hard to build during that phase while keeping recovery, proper and stuff like that. So this was a good way to maintain my fitness for the squat and really just get a good practice with the heavier loads in. I've always been able to push higher volume with squats, but then once it gets to a higher intensity zone, I'm usually not able to express that strength that I built with all that volume. And I either kind of burn out physically or mentally, where I just get kind of defeated. So practicing these heavy singles every single day has really increased my confidence with these loads, as well as my overall technical proficiency and ability to grind through these harder sets. So usually, when I'm doing a volume phase, I get pretty proficient at doing high reps, but then the second it gets to a certain intensity zone, it's pretty normal to see your technique sort of break down once it's towards a maximum load. But I did notice it's very hard for me, even from a mental standpoint, to kind of get past certain sticking points where I would just kind of give up or just go into the set already defeated. So I think practicing these heavier singles has really made me comfortable with learning how to grind and just kind of getting myself out of that comfort zone. So the way I'm approaching this program is very intuitive based. There's not necessarily a rhyme or reason or even like a pattern that happens. And I choose on the actual day itself which type of squat variation I'm going to perform based on how I feel. So this can be a little bit tricky and does require some awareness and intuitive feedback. Or else you might just stall out really, really quickly. So it can be very tricky in terms of determining what type of variation you should choose for that day. And so you have to be very aware of yourself as a lifter and what you feel will be very optimal for that day. So for instance, on days where I just don't feel super stable or it's hard for me to get into the hole, I'll probably implement some sort of pause variation. If my back feels a little fatigued, I might incorporate some sort of high bar variation. Or if I'm just trying to go a little bit lighter, but still keep the overall exertion higher, I might include something like a front squat. So the main variations that I've been incorporating are high bar paused, low bar paused, and front squat. Those are the main ones, but Honestly, you can do whatever type of variation that you want, including things like tempo work, beltless work, sleeveless work. It doesn't really matter as long as you're working up to a single at around RPE 9 for that day. And so you don't necessarily have to switch it up every single day. You can repeat the same lift you did before, or, just again, depending on how you feel, choosing what's the most optimal. And so it's important to be kind of honest with yourself when it comes to that stuff. Now, these variations apply to me the best and can differ from person to person. Again, you don't need to do a specific type of variation. Everyone's a little bit different. And it's, again, the idea here is to work up to a heavy max and really just optimize performance. So you're going to have to be very, very intuitive. I'm running this for a total of about 6 or 7 weeks or so. So I've been doing it for 3 weeks so far. I'm probably going to do it for another 3 weeks. And then from there, I'm going to start prepping for a meet in October. So this was a good way, again, to just get me comfortable with heavier loads, maintain my fitness and ability to handle these heavier loads while I'm in a caloric deficit. And then after these next 3 weeks, I'm just going to start building up in a volume phase again and get ready for this meet. So I'm hoping to get really comfortable with these heavier weights and then let that carry over and transfer into my volume work. So usually I would suggest people, if they do choose to run this, to do it for only about 6 to 8 weeks. You can do more, but it seems to be that if you do more, it kind of just plateaus and doesn't really get you anywhere. You definitely still need to incorporate volume phases. So this is not something that I would recommend for you to do year round or even for a long period of time. It's just for a short stint of time. And then again, moving back into some volume work. So for me, this program's been very beneficial so far, especially from a mentality standpoint. I'm going to list off some mental benefits that I've gained so far. You get really comfortable being uncomfortable. Obviously, you're working up to a max. You're approaching sets that you've probably never done before, and you know it's going to be hard. So you know that you can't just walk in there and kind of just half-ass it. You have to put your full effort into it and know that it's going to be hard. And that's honestly a really beneficial thing to learn how to do. You learn how to trust yourself. You become more aware of your body and how it's actually feeling to help you choose what's optimal for that day. So you do have to become very intuitive as a lifter. You build confidence with heavier loads, of course, which is definitely important for a lot of lifters if their mindset kind of plays a role in approaching their heavy sets, which I feel like most people do. They get a little bit nervous when it gets towards maximum loads. So this is a good way to build that confidence and feel like you can trust your technique with a max attempt. You definitely learn how to grind and not give up when it is hard. I've definitely seen myself become more proficient at quote unquote grinding. Usually I would see my knees kind of recede back and I would kind of get out of my quads. My hips would shoot back and up. I would lose my back positioning and then I wouldn't be able to get through that sticking point. So this is a good way to learn how to grind and become very proficient at getting through those sticking points. You learn how to channel certain modes of emotions to help you conquer your goal for that day. Again, that whole mindset approach where you learn how to almost get aggressive, you learn how to hype yourself, you learn how to just approach it with a very confident standpoint where you're just like, okay, I have to do this. I don't care how I feel. It's going to be hard and that's okay. So you just learn how to get yourself in the right mindset and you become very technically proficient as well. And then lastly, you learn where your top end strength is and how much you can actually push. So again, from a mindset standpoint, we usually are hard on ourselves and that's defeating in itself because we tend to think that we're not able to do certain things, whereas we actually are if we just believe in ourselves. So this is a good way to learn how to believe in yourself and kind of learn how to gauge where your top end strength is and how much you can actually push yourself to get there. So that's how I feel, and that's the kind of the benefits I've gained so far, and I'm really excited to let this carry over into my meet prep, because squats have never been my friend, and I've always kind of hated them because they were so hard for me, which is not a good way to approach things. But now I'm able to take it on as a challenge, and I'm excited to kind of push myself in squats now. And so, yeah. Another thing to note is you should not expect a PR every day, because that's not going to happen. That's just unrealistic. They will probably come very frequently if you do this the right way, but not necessarily every single day. I've actually hit PRs so far on a lot of my variations weekly, sometimes 2 days in a row. Again, there are variations, so it's not like I'm hitting the same weight and then beating that the next day. It's different variations, so that in turn, the load is going to fluctuate here and there. And you kind of have to just take what's there for that day and really listen to your body and trust yourself. But overall, I really enjoy this program. If you guys have any questions about it, there's probably a ton of questions about how to approach it and if you should do it. Let me know in the comment section below. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And if you decide to actually try this, let me know and I can help you out.